Hello. Welcome to Stories from the Earth. My name is Jennifer. We are a titch late this morning. Some technical difficulties, but we got it. So yeah, I want to welcome everybody. Oh my gosh, there we go. And before we get started, I always briefly like to say why I'm doing these interviews. The practice of herbalism is as diverse and dynamic as each individual herb and each individual herbalist. There are many ways to be an herbalist and many ways to interact with the plant world. Each herbalist takes their own path. This series explores the many ways to be an herbalist and who an herbalist is, as well as a discussion on herbalism today and where herbalism might be going in the future. Okay, hold on. I would like to welcome Sara Jackson. Today, she's coming to us from Batcave, which is a little whiles out from town. She's an herbalist, photographer, and I guess a woodland steward, as among other things. So, hello, Heather. How are you? If anyone has any questions, please leave them in the comments, and we will work them in. So, anyway, hello.
Hi from Batcave, chilly Batcave. How are you?
Batcave, yes. Are you guys supposed to get the snow?
I think we're gonna get ice tomorrow. It's not looking pleasant.
Exciting.
And, yeah, so from Batcave to everybody out there, hi. Batcave is a really cool place, and I highly suggest making a trip out this way. It's about 45 minutes south of Asheville. We're very nearby Chimney Rock Park and Lake Lure, both of which are incredibly, stunningly beautiful places that I highly suggest anyone who really enjoys nature to visit if they can, if they haven't already. And it's certainly like a highlight of Western North Carolina, in my opinion.
Definitely. As well as the cave, right?
The cave.
There's a cave.
The cave. And yes, so Batcave is named after actually the largest granite fissure cave in North America. And it's really amazing. Right now it is under the stewardship and protection of the Nature Conservancy.
Oh.
So it's not really open to the public, although it has been in the past, and I don't know if it ever will be in the future, but I feel like it's enough to say that there are endangered bat species, which are very, very delicate. And so because of the white-nosed bat syndrome that has been spreading like wildfire across America, North America, it has placed many bats, including some of the bats here in Batcave, in danger, and it's spread by people. So I think that the Nature Conservancy is kind of doing the right thing in, not wanting the public to visit. So anywho, Batcave in a nutshell.
Because I believe I was able to go. I think
Yeah, many years ago, yes. That was before white nose.
Yeah.
Happened in bats.
Yeah, it was cool. They were, they did little tours through the cave. So, but yeah, if anyone, I think I went to Chimney Rock like a long time ago. If everyone is in like Western North Carolina and wants to check out some really, really cool like outdoorness, yeah, definitely. All right, awesome. So, let's see. I usually have my questions written on a paper, but today I just have them on the computer. So,
hey, really, really quick. May I speak? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for doing this. And I really love the concept of your stories from the earth, and I love your premise that herbalists are as diverse and amazing, and as individual as plants themselves, and even places. It's like we really get to appreciate the beautiful individuality of, like our little microclimates here in Western North Carolina. From one side of the mountain, literally to the other, it can be so different. And I would like to think of Asheville and Western North Carolina as kind of like a little hotspot with all of its like little microclimates of amazing people doing amazing things in their amazing places. So yeah, thank you for doing this, and I'm honored to be with you.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm honored that so many wonderful herbalists have come and been willing to chat with me and tell their experiences and their stories and and everything else. And I'm hoping one day to branch out and talk to herbalists from across the country, and I also want to when we can travel again, go take this thing on the road, like just go visit, and so I can actually see, or go wildcrafting with somebody, go in the woods, go see their garden, go see their workspace, go just take it a little more, even further. So stay tuned, everyone. But I couldn't have done it without you guys, so I was just floored. So yay, awesome. Well, Heather says nicely said. It's my friend Heather.
Heather.
So awesome. Well, thank you. So we're just gonna jump into it. So tell us a little about yourself and describe how you got interested in herbalism. Like, what sparked this interest? Why did you want to become an herbalist? Why did you want to like work with plants? How did this sort of journey start?
Okay, so let's see. So I grew up not here in the Appalachians. I grew up in like on the coast of North Carolina.
Oh.
And my father was kind of like a historian and an EMT. And so I kind of got to witness a lot of, or I didn't get to witness it specifically. I was young, but I got to kind of explore in a way the world of medicine, through what he was doing. And of course I like probably read medical texts and all kinds of things that was like way out of my, like reading age. And I mean, I've always felt like healing, whether that be emergency response or herbs or, I don't know, like the comfort of a kissy or a Band-Aid, as my 4-year-old would put it, is just so important. And so, my father did that, and my mother has this amazing green thumb. And so I kind of grew up, also with her, working in like garden center and, us having our garden. We didn't have like a farm or anything, but,
Right.
I think I feel like I inherit this green thumb from both sides of my family, maybe prominently from my mother's side. And, obviously my father being kind of like an EMT and, someone who shows up to help people when they're hurt. I don't know, maybe that kind of came together in me. And, so, I've kind of traveled around. I was kind of always interested in, how to like, I don't know, or maybe not like emergency medicine, because it's nothing that dignified or formal in study, but maybe just a love of medical anthropology and ethnomedicine has kind of eventually led me here to this place, which is my life now, which is here like on the mountainside in Batcave. And before I moved out here, I lived in Eastern Tennessee. I learned about Joe Hollis, who is like my abiding hero and friend. And, what he has created there in Mountain Gardens is paradise. That's what he calls it. It's a paradise garden, and it is truly a paradise. And in my eyes and in so many others, and absolutely to him, you know, his experience with the Peace Corps and international, you know, studies in medicine, especially Chinese medicine. So he has a Chinese, you know, herbal apothecary, and that really interested me. And so for a while I studied with him, and then I wound up moving to Asheville, you know, as the gravitational force goes, and kind of got involved with Chinese medicine. So for a while I was a dispenser in a Chinese herbal kind of like dispensary or apothecary. You know, I filled Chinese herbal prescriptions for people. And so I got to work with like all of these dried herbs. And it was kind of before I knew a whole lot about how they grow and where they were grown and their actions and medicinal properties. And I mean, you could really just fall into a never ending rabbit hole of Chinese medicine. You know, they just are so granular, and they just take it to levels unheard of in a lot of other, you know, I guess modalities and the way they interact. And I mean, even down to like the number of herbs in a, you know, in a formula.
Yeah.
It's like numerology, really. I was like, what? Numerology is important in, I mean, not numerology specifically, but like the number of herbs in that way. And so it's really interesting. And so I got really interested in Chinese herbs, and, you know, through my connection with Joe Hollis, kind of learned that, you know, a lot of the things that they use over there and have for thousands of years can, you know, there's counterparts that grow here. There's native versions, you know, some can be brought over here and grown easily. And so Joe Hollis has been a major inspiration for me, you know, as far as what he does and the work and the amazing work that he's done with kind of forging a connection between Native American herbs and herbalism and Chinese herbs and herbalism. So that's kind of been an inspiration to me. And it turns out that ginseng was like the major connection for me, because I didn't really know that ginseng grew here, like Native American, American ginseng. So Panax cincifolius versus, you know, its sister herb Panax ginseng, which is the native Chinese ginseng, which is the king of herbs. And so when I came here, and my wonderful partner Martin, he's like, hey, do you know what that plant is? And I was like, I probably should, but I don't. And then he was like, that's American ginseng. And I was like, wait, what? That's ginseng? And then I was like, maybe reading about it. I'm like, that is the ginseng. That is ginseng that has been used for thousands of years as the king of herbs in Chinese herbalism. I'm like,
it grows here.
It's not the exact same plant, but, you know, it has subtly different properties, and, you know, like just profound uses for healing people, and, you know, like anti-aging. And now, I mean, with modern medicine, we're getting into like diabetes, cancer, you know, like all of these like amazing ways that it can complement, you know, other treatments and ease other treatments. And it's just, I mean, it's an amazing kind of ally to humanity. And so, I mean, it took me a little bit to realize that, you know, the plant that I was standing over, kind of looking down at, was this incredibly important plant. And when I started learning more about it, I was like, oh man, ginseng, its commercial value. I mean, so because people pay a lot of money for it, and most of it is exported out of the country, you know, this plant is very nearly endangered, or if it's not, it should be. You know, I guess I could expound upon the CITES, you know, the CITES status of ginseng, but
oh yeah, and I'm definitely gonna I'm gonna ask you some more about that. So
anyway, it's like kind of herbalist journey kind of culminating right here, right now for me with ginseng. And I'm also really into native plants for both edible use and medicine, and just for forest stewardship in general. And I'm kind of a proponent of really learning a lot about what you have where you are, almost instead of planting things. I'm not saying you can't plant things. I mean, useful plants, edible plants, gardens. I mean, those are so important for humanity's connection with nature and for more practical purposes. But yeah, so I mean, natives, ginseng, forest community plants, and things like that. I mean, that's kind of that's my wheelhouse, I suppose.
Well, that's quite a journey. It's almost like you found not only like it's like you found a place, but that place also had a plant that would be super important to you. So, I mean, I think a lot of people are drawn to the mountains, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of biodiversity. So there's a lot of, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not more plants, that you are interested
Absolutely.
in, right?
So many. Yeah.
But like this, you found this one specific plant that really, really, has become important. And so that's really cool. So Heather put up the link to Mountain Gardens. Now you can,
Thank you.
Yes, you can go visit Mountain Gardens. It's open. You just have to contact, I don't know about because of COVID. So you might have to wait, but normally I think you just contact them and say, hey, I want to visit.
If you email Joe, he'll get right back with you. And especially, I mean, right now in the off season, I don't know. I mean, he usually has like interns and things like that. And like during the growing season, but I would certainly get in contact with him. And any season is an amazing season to go visit mountain gardens. And I highly suggest like putting forth tremendous effort to visit in all 4 seasons, like once per season, just to witness it, because
it's really cool. It's definitely worth a trip. They have a large library, and just huge, all kinds of books on everything. You just sort of, I mean, I'm glad I got to visit. I went in one season. He was like, oh yeah, so the echinacea was blooming, so I feel like it was like getting on the fallish summer, somewhere in there, but not spring. But yeah, it's amazing, unique place. I wish there was more places like that. And that was really, really cool. It's very inspiring. I've got Evelyn Thatcher.
Hi, Evelyn.
Oh, I would pronounce your name right. She says, thank you so much, Sarah, for this incredible, vital work you're doing to preserve the precious and endangered ginseng. The world needs you. Oh. And then Heather put up the Facebook link also to Mountain Gardens. So some links for everyone to check out. Awesome. Cool. So you might have covered this, but what was your herbal education like? But I think you answered that, unless there was something that you
yeah, maybe I could address that. I am not a clinical herbalist. I have really had not much of any formal training. Now, when I was kind of like a dispenser in a Chinese herbal apothecary, it was pretty straightforward. And, through that is what is how I've learned kind of about like dispensing of herbs. And so, like weighing things, I've learned about, Chinese formulas. I've learned about, different preservations of the herbs. It's like, especially Chinese herbs. I mean, there's like 100 different ways. It's like you have fresh things, you have dry things, you have, stewed things. You have like, Romano is literally, like boiled until, it's bendy, so it's like all of these ways to preserve and process the herbs. I mean, you can just keep going forever in the way that those work together, how they complement, how they work in the body, what channels they go into, like so much of that. So, I wish I could say that I have attended, for instance, Juliet Blanken's Forge, like chestnut herbal school. Maybe someday I will.
Maybe.
But
I missed her. I missed her school too. And it's all online now, and I would have loved to have gone in person.
She's a visionary. I'm so glad that she's doing what she does, and I would love one day to explore and participate in that more. I'm a little isolated out here, and because of being 45 minutes away, it's not easy for me to travel. I have a 4-year-old. We have a tiny family. So, and honestly, I stay pretty busy. We stay pretty busy out here, just doing stewarding things and, kind of taking care of the place and gardening and trying to be vaguely self-sufficient. But, so yeah, I'm not in any way a dignified or experienced kind of like formal herbalist. But, what I do like to do is, use photographs to like forge a connection with people. It's like, sometimes I like to go like macro into like a flower bloom or a leaf. I'm so obsessed with leaves and chlorophyll. It's not even funny. And so I don't know. I like to explore perspectives that people enjoy and may not find to be a common perspective with plants like that. So I kind of use alternative means, to explore things like that. And, cheers. Here is my Batcave nettle tea. It is fantastic. It is so good. I waited and I stalked and I pounced on like the like really small tiny little nettle shoots. They started coming up in spring, and I cut them and I dried them and I put them in a jar, and it is like the best tea, and it's super good for you. I don't know. I mean, it's good for your skin. It's good for allergies. It's good for all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I do. I mean, I'm kind of like keep it simple when it comes to my own practice, like of herbalism. So, yeah. Anyway, that's kind of like my herbal training. It's not much, but the connection is there nonetheless.
I think it's important, and especially since we have like no official formal training here in this country. I think we all. That's the reason I asked the question. Like, I think we all come to this a little differently, and we sort of bring our own perspectives to the table. Like, you use photography, and if you guys haven't, there's a link to Sarah's Facebook and all that website. Give a chance to look at her photography. It's really amazing and gorgeous, and I love seeing it like almost pretty much every day on my Facebook feed. And I think Heather put stealth herbalism. I love you're like, I pounced, and I mean, yeah, if somebody is more like if someone's sort of interested in plants, or if maybe they're not and they see your photography and they're just like, wow, that's so amazing. And then it just sort of helps them get to know the plants, and then maybe they'll get to know the uses and like, so I think that the connection. Yeah. And it's a very beautiful visual thing. I think it's definitely part of herbalism, which is very like 5 senses, the smell and the taste and the sight and the feel. And so that's
it's immersive. I love that word, immersive. And I love, the immersion of the natural world and the plants too. Yeah, that's a great point. It is 5 senses.
Yeah. And that's one thing I really like about it. Heather put up a link to your Batcave Botanicals Instagram. I am drinking Tulsi tea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did not wildcraft it, but I did get it from Mountain Rose Herbs.
Yeah, awesome.
So at least it is ethically sourced, and it's one of my favorite things to drink.
Do you have a garden?
I do not. I have a balcony because I'm right in town currently. When we look for a house, we probably will be outside of town due to things like price. But anyway, also you can get land, so it's not a bad thing.
Good luck finding the perfect place, and I hope that you can have an amazing garden and herb garden.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm more of a wild crafter, I think, like you, but I have 3 pots out there. I've got comfrey, I've got lemon balm, and I've got a catnip that is hanging on. They're all hanging on. So comfrey grows really well outside.
Comfrey is definitely, I mean, I don't know, one of the top 10 things to have on hand for sure. And lemon balm is definitely chief amongst them too. I mean, I don't know. It's like I really advocate for something as simple as like picking a plant and making a tea out of it. I mean, like fresh or dried. I mean, that's just such an easy way. Obviously, you want to make sure it's safe, but you know it's a plant. Yeah,
and identification is important.
Yes, identification, and make sure it's safe. But you know, make it into a tea. Drink it. You know, kind of absorb it. You know, kind of become immersed in it. You know, or steep yourself in it. For tea time.
See how it feels. You know, it can be, herbalism can be very complex, but it also can be very simple. And I think that most people feel like it's not. Feel like it's I have to know so much, but you don't have to know so much, or at least you know, it's accessible. You know, I mean. Yeah. I mean, you can make like a ginger infused honey, which is really good. Like that's herbalism. Like, you know, like you were saying, like a tea. So even if you got the Tulsi tea in the tea bag from the health food store, you know, you're still tasting the plant. You're still experiencing that. You know, if you're like, oh, I'm not up to doing like little plane.
I'm sorry, that's my end.
Oh, it's okay.
I can plug in my inline mic. I think it'll be gone in a second. We don't get much traffic out here except for air traffic. We get a little bit of air traffic.
I love that you're outside and we can see like the trees behind you, and that's really great. Oh,
if it wasn't so cold. If it wasn't so cold, hey, there's my stack of books. If it wasn't so cold, I was going to set up in front of our waterfall. Or at our creek here on our property, which is super special. But yeah, it was kind of too cold to go over there and do that. So anywho, I'm out here in my office on the porch.
Nice. That is a great office.
Oh, here's the bonus. That's our firewood. So I'm like, this is my office. It's like my desk is a stack of firewood. So very, very traditional Appalachian, perhaps, out here in Batcave.
A nice mix of old and new.
Yes. Yes. A laptop on some firewood.
On some firewood? Yeah.
So on some firewood. Yeah. So you know, it's been really interesting exploring herbalism with my 4-year-old. And, you know, it's kind of fun with the photography too, because we don't go anywhere. We don't travel. We walk. We walk around our property.
How many acres
we don't do polar plunges. We don't do polar plunges in the creek. It is cold. But they do polar plunges at Lake Lure.
Oof.
What was that?
I'm sorry, how many acres do you have?
47.
Oh, that's amazing.
And most of it is not walkable. So really we're only out and about on like 10 of them, and
so
we are
hot.
we are grateful and lucky. And honestly, right now in these incredibly hard times, I'm realizing I'm not taking it for granted. And I wish I could share this little piece of kind of tranquility with everybody, because I mean, I don't know what to say. I can't imagine how hard it is for literally everyone else who has it harder than we do right now, which is pretty much everybody. I mean, we have a huge property and the ability to walk around. I mean, we have like a fire pit, we have a creek, we have a personal sized waterfall, we have a garden. And so that keeps us pretty busy, and herbs and things to harvest. And so that keeps us pretty busy, and especially the 4-year-old. And yeah, if I could, I would absolutely, truly share a piece of this with every person in the world going through, stress and strain and suffering because of what's going on right now. I really wish I could. And in the meantime, I can't really go for hikes with people. But if you're in Western North Carolina and are interested in learning a little bit about, I welcome you to get in touch. You can go for a little individual walking tour of our little area. It might be fun.
Oh, well,
Get in touch. Batcave Botanicals at gmail.com.
Well, I mean, perhaps in the spring.
Yeah, I would love to see you post COVID, and I'd love to give you a tour with a video camera.
I think that would be so awesome. I just can't wait. There's it's just gonna be like I think it's so awesome. There's several others that I definitely wanted to do the same thing with, and I super excited. So yeah, I think that's amazing. So we can bring everyone virtually at least.
Yes.
Probably not live, but
that's all right.
They can come along and take a trip, and
internet connectivity can be an issue out here, so maybe not live, but for sure. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah. And so a tiny bit about this property. It's 47 acres. It's very steep. The top of our property kind of terminates in cliffs. And so we kind of have like this cove and like a little ridge and then another cove. And our house is kind of on the little ridge. And so on one side, we have 2 creeks. And on the other side of the ridge where our house is, we have another creek, driveway. And so, yeah, it's pretty intense. I mean, I certainly wouldn't call it like strenuous hiking, but I mean, we have lots of paths and things and nice walkable little roads and stuff. And it's basically a rich mesic cove, and it has maples and birches and hickory trees that are just huge. We used to have hemlocks, Carolina hemlocks. Unfortunately, kind of got wiped out by woolly delgid, unfortunately. But we have a bunch of plants here, so many wild edibles, wild medicinal plants. And so I guess right now in this phase of my life, I'm kind of working on kind of like the growing aspect. No, we don't have close neighbors. Fortunately, we don't.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. I have a lot of since we had technical difficulty, we didn't get to discuss some of the other things that I usually go over, but a lot of people do opt not to pay attention to the chat, but I try to say they can. So that's good. I'm glad. Go. Yeah. Feel free to answer anyone's questions, or, Heather has a large garden, and she's in Tennessee. So
what part of Tennessee? Oh, sorry, I can't really converse with you.
No, you can. You can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll answer.
And so, so like really quick, just to round this little piece up. Sorry, I'm probably like too much information.
No.
We have, we have lots of incredible species like woods nettle. Woods nettle and wild ginseng are my two favorite plants, although I have many others. We have bloodroot, we have trilliums, we have Solomon seal. We have, so many things that just grow naturally here. And honestly, we've been so broke. I haven't really ever been able to like invest in a bunch of plants to grow here. But instead, it has been amazing watching this place year after year and learning ramps. Yes, we do. And so just kind of watching it year in and year out in the different seasons and, like being like, ooh, I wonder what this plant is, and looking it up and just being like, whoa, check that out. It's like, what can I use this for? It's like, how many things are edible? We have, get this is kind of fun. This is like a little known traditional Appalachian plant is a branch lettuce, or branch lettuce, as they like to say.
I've heard of the branch lettuce.
So it's in the saxifrage family. It grows in and on our creek. It needs like constant running water, and it's kind of the old timey recipe is called Kilt lettuce. And so what you do is you take this, you harvest it only in the early spring. You make a big pile and you take hot bacon grease and toss the stuff in it, and it wilts it. And I have to admit, it's very tasty.
Bacon grease.
I know, bacon grease. I was like, I'm saying this to Asheville.
Unless you're a vegetarian.
Yes, obviously.
So
you
probably not for you, but yes.
Warm olive oil or something. But yes, so, kind of exploring kind of like that old-timey cuisine. And another thing I'm really into is Sansai. And Sansai is Japanese mountain vegetables. They're purely wild harvested every spring. And it's kind of almost like its own little cult going on in certain places of the world. But, Sansai also kind of, expanding to like Chinese wild crafting of some amazing plants that they have over there. I've started watching this YouTube channel called Lizishi, and she's amazing. And one of the things she does is she goes out and she carefully harvests like wild mushrooms and like plants in different stages and buds, and steams them, and like all of this amazing kind of wild cuisine that is incredibly inspirational. So, and like almost so inspirational, it's painful to watch. Kind of inspirational, but yeah, she's amazing. And so, one of the things that we have planted here is Wasabi japonica. So it is not a Native American herb.
I don't think I've ever seen it except in its like mushy green blobness.
Exactly. Well, That is how it is known. International renowned mushy green blobness.
Exactly.
And so Joe Hollis, he was one of the first people in America to grow wasabi in a cold mountain creek that never dries out. And it just so happens that we have like the perfect place to grow it. And it's kind of like watercress. It's right in the same family. Actually, they're very closely related. Like wasabi is basically Japanese watercress. Heather, that's amazing. Yeah, I bet. Maybe East Tennessee definitely has a tradition of things like that, and ramps, certainly.
I think it's very similar. I feel like from Heather's like conversations, like I think that like it's pretty similar to. I don't think she's in necessarily the mountains, but she might. Lots of wasabi sold in the U.S. is dyed green horseradish. Well, look at that. I did not know that, Heather.
So real wasabi is rare. It's very rare and very expensive. It's usually only available commercially as a dry powder that you reconstitute in order to have it with your with your sushi, but or raw fish, but so um yeah, so that's definitely a fact. And the reason why is because it's so hard to grow. It has to have extremely specific growing requirements. And those specific growing requirements are that it has to be in a very cold creek all year round and grow in gravel, and it kind of has like mildew issues, and if you don't make your beds the right way and space them out, and then as with anything that grows in a creek, flooding can be a problem. So, I mean, there's definitely some interesting factors, but, they have been doing research on wasabi in Western North Carolina, and, Janine Davis of the North Carolina State University Extension Agency, her website, I think it's ncherb.org. ncherb.org kind of talks about that. I think they've done some studies with that in Western North Carolina. And I think there's a handful of other people who grow wasabi. But because it takes like 8 years, like ginseng, to grow a decent fruit, we're just doing seeds and doing like leaf garnishes right now. But you know what? The leaves are really tasty. Really tasty.
Are they also kind of spicy?
Peppery. Yes, they're peppery, but they have a wonderful spiciness. It's kind of like almost sweet, and it's not anything like the horseradish that you have like in a restaurant. But yeah, I mean, if I may go off on another momentary tangent, the reason why wasabi was decided upon in ancient Japan and probably Japan to accompany things like raw fish is that the compounds in horseradish kind of counteract things that could possibly make you ill, like raw fish or E. coli and things like that. And so this culinary kind of relationship has developed over all of these years, kind of like raw meat and raw fish, and it's like mustard. Mustard is a condiment, that's maybe our Western version, but wasabi was a condiment kind of developed to go hand in hand, not only because it tasted good with sashimi and raw fish, but because it actually had a purpose, and which is kind of interesting, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, because it definitely seems like a lot of the foods that we sort of eat, just especially these days, sort of have less relevance in any way to anything. Like, we don't have to eat by the seasons anymore. It's divorced from there. It's sort of just all over the place. And then, I think a lot of people are so busy that like it's hard to even like sit down and kind of notice what you're eating and everything. So it's really cool that it's definitely interesting, and I wish that like we could sort of bring some of that back into our lives a little bit, but yeah,
absolutely. And it's really important, and on so many levels. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like the principle behind things like Sansai. It's like everybody after this, like, long winter is just absolutely craving something green. And so they go out and stalk and pounce, on the wild mountain vegetables like hosta. Hosta is actually an edible species considered a delicacy in Japan. Like their native hosta. It's just kind of like, what? That's like garden center stuff. I used to bring hostas when I worked at a garden center. So anyway, just that kind of amazingly interesting kind of stuff. That's something I'm really into as well.
Yeah, that's
like,
awesome.
Like
Yes.
proto agriculture and maybe the origins of agriculture, but not not like monocropping like today, but
Right.
it's like going out and finding and foraging and wildcrafting and things like that, eating with, or at least incorporating a percentage of it into your diet.
I mean, I kind of wish I had found out what this thing of ethnobotany was like years ago, because I love that, because it combines like history and then how people used to use the plants and then I'm interested in all that, and I feel like it has so much value to the world we live in, which is so like wonkadoo. I mean, I definitely feel like I myself is like one of those plants that has very specific growing conditions, like in my journey through life. So I can definitely relate to the wasabi. Heather says, I have not eaten hosta yet. I have not either, Heather. And she said, I jump on my chickweed. Yes.
Heather, I have not eaten hosta yet either. I kind of like chicken out maybe, because I'm not sure if the fancy landscape varieties are really, like edible or even like safe to eat. But in Japan, what they do is they go after like the bamboo like shoots of the hosta as they're coming out of the ground. So they're kind of treated like fiddleheads.
Yeah.
If anyone has ever, if anyone's familiar with kind of foraging for fiddleheads, it's like you want to like see them through the year, mark their location, and then come back and stalk them until they get the right size, and then sustainably, ethically, like harvest them from a large pack and things like that. And yes, I jump on chickweed too. I love it.
Oh, I was gonna say something, but so let's see. So what is your idea of who an herbalist is and what an herbalist does? Just in general, or more specifically, yeah. Poke salad. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Poke salad. I like your borage. Is that a borage?
I think it is. Oh, hold on.
It's very beautiful. Borage is one of my favorites.
Heather, is that not a borage? Let us know.
It is. Is it a nightshade? Solana say. Oh, anyway. So, an herbalist. Who is an herbalist? What is an herbalist? I feel like an herbalist is anyone, who is, I don't know. I guess herbalism is like individually or collectively using nature and plants to like heal hurts or humanity. I mean, it's like infinitely scalable.
Yes.
And as for how, I guess herbalists kind of self-identify. I mean, for me, it's like I would loosely call myself an herbalist. I mean, I'm certainly not anything like, Corey Pine Chain or someone like that who is an absolute, like amazing, dignified herbalist who is highly respected in the herbal community. And I think that's amazing. And so he's an amazing example of what an herbalist is. I mean, Joe Hollis, Juliet Blankenspore. I mean, I know she's an educator, like, Corey Pinestein, Mark Williams. These are some of the people that I have the privilege to know of. I don't really know so many people personally because I'm kind of like a hermit out here, like a hermit thrush out here on the side of the mountain in Batcave, like the bird, and who actually plants ginseng, believe it or not. And so, Joe Hollis, like I said, a total inspiration for me. His vision, for making a place that takes care of the people who live there as much as they take care of it. That's like a reciprocal, I suppose, relationship. with nature, and then making that available. So I think I might be a little bit more on like the advocate or educational side of the herbal spectrum. And that's, yeah, I don't know. I think it's, you know, for me, it may be a unique perspective and the ability to like help people connect, maybe. Herbal photographer.
No, no. You know, I mean, it is a very general question, and you know, and I think that you know, it doesn't have a set definition. So you know, I feel like your photography definitely like comes through the screen very loud. So you know, I mean, so you might not be around too many people in person, you know, but like through the magic of the internet, you know, and then your pictures, it really comes through. So and definitely, you know, is needed somebody who's taking pictures, who's advocating, who's stewarding, as well as someone who's teaching, and you know, maybe seeing someone in a clinical setting. So I think everybody is important, and you know, so yeah,
it's as individual as everyone who practices it. So yes, yeah, I love how you say that. And you know, yeah. You know, my 4-year-old has used plantain for like a scrape. I mean, and I hope that he might continue, but you know, I mean, he's obviously not an herbalist, but I'm hoping that, you know, that connection can grow and, you know, maybe set the foundation, you know, for I don't know, making his own tea, drinking his own tea, growing some of his own food, you know, things like that. I mean, there's any number of ways. And you know, as far as the photography goes, you know, this is what I use to take my pictures. It's like a Google like Google phone. And so it's not like a fancy camera, and I don't travel places, and you know, I really like the different phases and the cycle. And you know, it's like Griffin is just like, "Mommy, hurry up, come on!" And I'm like on the ground, like doing this low call, trying to like picture a plant. He's very patient, but
it's for.
I mean, yeah. Well, and so yeah, it's about perspective, and sometimes it's about changing your perspective. You know, for me, I oftentimes like to lie on the ground and, you know, like take this really weird low depth of, you know, like the field photo of like some dew on a leaf or something. I don't know.
There's a Japanese filmmaker called his last name is Ozo. Forget his first name, but he does slice of life movies, and from like, you know, 40s, 50s, and he uses a very low camera, so everything cool. And all the movies are very slow, but they're so good.
I would love to see that. And
I'll just send you a link to just you know, just like maybe the wiki page, so you can.
That'd be great. I'd love to.
I think you would really love his movies. But my theory is because my dad's very like into the. He used to work at a camera store, and we used to. They didn't work, but we started a low power television station, and basically, you know, I was like 12 on a camera that, you know,
that's
like
great,
running around. But I also don't use the most high end camera. It's less about the technology and more about the person using it. Like, you should see the camera I used to do my videos. I have to get a new camera really badly, and actually I want to get a really, really nice like new video camera. But this is like a still camera from like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I take videos with from my YouTube channel, and you know, but like, so I think people do get hung up a little in the tools, but yeah, I mean, phone cameras are great these days.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty astounding what they have the power to do and what's at your fingertips.
Right, and it's just like the way you see the world comes through there. So that's like the important bit. And I wouldn't have known that you just shot anything with a cell phone camera.
I like low angle because it makes the nature feel big and the perspective feel smaller, which is something I feel is like embedded to me and like the immersion of with nature. I mean, that's like part of what I love about it. It's like I feel so small and insignificant or something. It's like I have this view of the mountains, and it's like every morning it's like, well, no matter how crappy my day has been, it's like I can still look out on this and just, be like, it doesn't matter. It does, but it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, it's all about perspective. And, I'm going to credit my son with that because, I mean, he's 4 years old. He's got a hawk eye. And, I mean, it's like he sees things that I would never even dream of looking at. And, I mean, I'm moderately observant. And, so it's like he points things out. And it's just this wonder of a 4-year-old who's never seen or touched something before. It's like all so new. And I love that. And so I guess I kind of try to capture that with my photographs.
And he's in a lot of them, which I really love.
I try not to take too many pictures of him. Actually, I ask him his permission before I even like point a camera in his direction or my phone. And he's like, yeah, mommy, no, mommy. I'm like, I honor your reluctance. So he's getting to that age now.
So Heather says it's a wood horse nettle.
Yeah, wild horse nettle. Yeah, so that is what I say. Yeah, rock on. Awesome.
And I feel like, since he's so immersed as well, that some of it's got to rub off. So
I hope so. A while back he was like, he asked his dad, he was like, is that a momodendron? Because we have like rhododendrons all over the place, which are, I mean, beautiful and kind of harsh. And we have like just like banks like this just covered in rhododendron. And so, I mean, it's not friendly, it's not edible, it's just kind of like eyes only is what I say. But he's so funny. He knows about hollies and how the birds eat the red berries, and he knows about rhododendrons, and he helps me in the garden, and he likes to eat little blue borage flowers, and I just it's a pleasure and honor to be able to teach him the little bit I know about this, and I look forward to it. I don't know, maybe he'll turn out to be a nature person in his own right. I hope so.
Well,
one thing is for sure, the first plant he ever knew was ginseng, because before we even were like spending tons of time outside when he was an infant, because he was born in like winter. I was looking at pictures of ginseng and talking, and he liked the red berries, and so that's kind of a nifty little thing. I don't know. I should have named him Ginseng. Maybe.
Nah, too on the nose.
I know. That's a little obvious, but still, I don't know.
Well, on that note, shall we talk about ginseng?
Yes, we should. I would love to.
Do it. So 2 questions. First, I'm gonna just start out with like a general definition for everyone who doesn't know. So would you define Woodland Botanicals for us on how they are different from other herbals? And the second question is, why did you want to work with ginseng, which I think you sort of answered, and what's so special about this herb as opposed to other herbs? So
this is my 100 days of ginseng.
Yes!
Plant every seed. 100 days of ginseng. Thank you for letting me do that. Gratuitous self-promotion. So what are native, like woodland botanicals, native botanicals, woodland
Let's
botanicals?
just define what is a woodland botanical. Because ginseng is a woodland botanical, but what is one, and then why are they different
Okay,
than
so
like your chickweed or your, I don't know, your lemon balm, which you were discussing, or your echinacea, or just, you know.
okay, so from the general to the specific, and I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a biologist or a botanist.
That's
So
fine. Just what you know,
okay.
yeah. We don't have to get too technical.
So, plant communities. Plant communities are important, and there's so many plant communities. There's many plant communities as there are places. Especially when you get into like little microclimates, like up here in the mountains. And so, forest botanicals specifically, are plants that grow and thrive in the forest. Now, one of the more obvious things about a forest botanical is that there's not an awful lot of sunlight, because you're in a forest. So you have the canopy, you have like anywhere from total shade, complete shade, which not a lot of things can grow, to high ambient sunlight. So if you can imagine like a really high canopy, with you have your high canopy, and then you have like your understory trees, smaller trees like red buds and dogwoods and witch hazels, and then you have shrubs like spice bush and rhododendron and sweet shrub and things like that, and then you have your forest floor, which are usually herbaceous perennials, which are plants, that kind of come up during the growing seasons and then, like die back in the winter, but they're all perennials. Well, I'm sorry, not all. There's some reseeding annuals like jewelweed, things like that, which can, grow too. But so when you think about, sometimes there's not much sunlight. Oftentimes there's a lot of competition under the ground, like from trees. It's like, I believe, Ben Kitchen mentioned, it's like maples snacking on things that you might want to plant, for example, so you have competition and you have things like that. And so, these woodland botanical communities have to be fairly well adapted, to thrive, not like grow like a like a pathetic wilted plant, but like thrive in mass. We have just blankets of bloodroot. When they bloom for like 1 week in the spring, the ground is white.
Wow.
And I mean, so all of the factors that go into it, like pollination, reproduction, like what's going on that we can't see underground, all of that factors into like a forest, like a woodland botanical community, which also, extends to things like ants that pollinate bloodroot, so the the bloodroot seed attracts ants to take the seed and take it back to their little ant hill, and that's where it grows.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that is a complicated, highly evolved mechanism for spreading itself, for reproduction. And so huge, vast communities can grow like that. And ginseng is just one of hundreds of these different kinds of plants, each one special in their own way, and each one playing its own part in that community. One thing that's kind of funny is that, oftentimes, ginseng will hide in nettles, and it's like a lot of things don't go in nettles because it stings.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Like a really interesting little side note of, kind of like defensive plants, and things like that. And so, what's that?
Like a fort.
Yeah, almost. Sorry, at the risk of anthropomorphizing a plant, but yes, ginseng. Yeah, sometimes ginseng can be found in nettle patches. They kind of, like coincide, their habitat and things like that. So forest botanicals often are long lived, like ginseng. Ginseng can literally live hundreds of years, which is so uncommon and amazing for an herbaceous perennial. I think I saw somewhere that like the oldest recorded ginseng root found in North America was 136 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure if that's truly a fact. I think it was a fairly authoritative source. I wish I could remember off the top of my head. But so they're long lived. A lot of times they're determinate, which is one thing about ginseng. One thing about ginseng, I'm afraid I'm going to have to go get my cord to plug my laptop in.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay? I'm so sorry. I want to do that before I risk going dead. My laptop just went dark.
Yeah. Go for it.
So yeah, I'll be right back to talk about ginseng. And anybody, this is a book that I highly suggest. James McGraw's new book, Wild American Ginseng. I'll be right back.
All right.
Discuss amongst yourselves.
We'll find that link. Wait, there it is. Wild American. Okay. No, book. All right, I'm finding the link, guys. This is the Amazon link. Hopefully it'll. So. Oh, I don't think that worked. Oh, yeah, it did. Okay. So this is the Wild American Ginseng book link for Amazon. I'm sure it's on other things. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments. I don't know if that link worked, but I'll just put the title up for everyone.
Sorry about that. I should have seen that coming.
No, that's totally fine. I like the subtitle for this this book. I think it's, let's see, hey,
Lessons for Conservation in the Age of Humans.
Yes. I think my link was too long, but anyway, it is on Amazon or other places.
It's on Amazon right now.
Yeah, yes. That's great. That's a great title.
And it is a monumental work of conservation biology. And I mean, and extending to other things. I mean, that's kind of part of his work. Jim McGraw's work is, preserving ginseng, using science to preserve ginseng for future generations and other plants. It's like, this is just one. And so in his book, he talks about keystone species, which are species that, either, are important for humans. It's like, we use ginseng for medicine and for the future of medical research, and so many reasons ginseng is a touchstone species. And, so you have a touchstone species, which is like people that have a strong connection to a plant. I feel like ginseng's, thousands of years of use and economic significance makes it a touchstone species for humanity. And it's like, oh yeah, this is important to us. And then you have like a keystone species. And a keystone species is a species that allows so many other species in its community, to be. And, species that a lot of other things rely upon, like wildlife, significant keystone species, like allows for other plants, allows for wildlife browse, allows for shelter, and like all kinds of, significant aspects of, like forest biology or life to center around it. And, for instance, ginseng, is browsed by deer. That's like kind of one of the biggest threats to ginseng is deer browse. And, but on the other hand, there's actually lots of species that really like the little red berries, like wood thrush, which is a rare bird that lives, in rhododendron thickets and things like that in the woods. And they actually eat the seeds and then they eat the berries and then regurgitate the seeds. It's kind of an interesting little thing. So basically, they see the red berries, they hop over to it, they eat the berries, and then they fly, a distance away and then choke up the seeds, and they're planted. I mean, that is the mechanics of that. It just is astonishing. It's amazing. And, thanks to Jim McGraw and his students, at McGraw Labs, we now know that's, a major thing, a major factor for ginseng. That's like a really interesting evolutionary development, I guess, with, birds. So, go ahead.
So, so I don't know if everybody knows this, but would you talk a little bit about like explain like a little bit about like the like maybe the need like so a lot of herbals, there's a lot of like nettles are very prolific, a dandelion is very prolific, and common, all this stuff, but like I don't talk about this thing where like why there's a need for ginseng conservation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that has a pretty simple answer to a very complex problem. So ginseng has a very unique biology. As I mentioned a moment ago, it can live hundreds of years, or at least over 100 years. And thanks to so much research being done on ginseng, we can now safely say that for a wild ginseng plant, it can take up to 10 years for a plant to grow and make its own seeds to replace itself. 10 years. That's a generation. I mean, that is a decade in our time. And so because of ginseng's very unique biology, like it can, it has to kind of grow up. It has to mature. And, lots of things, there's lots of things about that. So ginseng takes a really long time to germinate. It can take 18 months for a ginseng seed. Yeah. I mean, it's not like planting lettuce or a daisy or chickweed is not at all like any of those things. And, the reason that we need ginseng awareness, ginseng education, and, ginseng conservation is because the commercial value is putting pressure on the plant, and it can only grow in certain areas. Although I'm sure many experts would agree that, there's a lot that we still don't know about ginseng, but it needs to be in the forest, and it needs to be in and amongst, it's woodland plant botanical community. And, it can be grown, and it is grown in Wisconsin, and it is grown in Canada. And by the way, in Canada, it is illegal to pick a wild ginseng plant, top or root, to dig it. It is illegal to harvest it in any way, shape, or form. In order to like sell ginseng, you have to have a farm and prove that you planted the seeds. So that's kind of interesting that maybe a lot of people don't realize. And so, because of its unique biology, it takes so long to reproduce itself. And also, age is the key to its potency. So, I mean, because it's been used in Asia, Korea, and China, and places like that, there's definitely connoisseurs, and it's definitely widely known that the oldest ginseng roots are the most potent. And that's because of their character, it's because of their size. I mean, I guess there's like a few different factors that go into that as far as desirability on their part. But what we know over here, watching them grow in the ground, is that, the bigger ones are more valuable on the market. So, I mean, in order to sell. And, the big ones are mature plants that give seed and, and also make more ginseng. Go ahead. Sorry.
So how much, like on a range, like how much is like a 10-year root versus like I don't know. What is the monetary sort of range on a ginseng root versus to the age?
Unfortunately, that has broken down. Unfortunately, with a lot of with the advent of a lot of people that are kind of new to ginseng and wildcrafting it, it's unsustainable because they maybe think it's like a daisy. It's a plant, it'll grow back. I'll just take it because I'm afraid if I don't, someone else will come behind me and take it, and that'll be money that I've lost.
Right.
And I mean, I really do try to spend a lot of time in their position, like with ginseng as an economically significant piece of income for them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of like the value of, say, somebody and wildcrafts, because, yeah.
So in the past couple years, ginseng has been up to $800 a pound dry.
Whew.
And, 200, 300, 400 for green roots. Those are undried. So those are fresh roots. And I mean, I may be off on my numbers because I haven't been really keeping up to date on the ginseng dealer side, but that's a lot of money. Yeah, ginseng is by far the most valuable wildcrafted plant in America. And it only grows, in Appalachia, like the eastern deciduous forests, really, like from the tip of Georgia, like the bottom teeny tiny piece of the Appalachian Mountains, all the way up the Appalachians, Catskills, like reaching all the way into like southeastern Canada. That's his native range. And it grows as far, I guess, west as like Wisconsin and the Ozarks, so like eastern west. So that's its native range. And so, yeah, because a lot of people are kind of new to ginseng and have been unsustainably wildcrafting it or harvesting it. There hasn't been a direct correlation between like root size and money. Okay. And so basically, what people are doing is they are going and taking every plant they see in order to get quantity, because that's what they're essentially being paid for.
So maybe it would even be better if there was like a correlation between root size and money. I just put it like that because I was trying to get an idea of the value, but it's done by pound, which is
done by quantity.
That's worse, isn't that? Or they're sorry, 6 of one, half dozen of other, maybe.
Well, and so I think it's amazing that we have a plant that has supported so many people for so long. I mean, we're talking like keep their lights on, make a vehicle payment. I mean, put dinner on the table, heat their house. Historically in America, it has been a significant botanical. I mean, like almost up there with tobacco, cotton, tea internationally, like tea, it's a historically and economically significant botanical species. And so even though I'm definitely like a conservationist at heart, I want to see both things happen. It's like I want to, I want to see ginseng harvested and used in an ethical and sustainable manner. And so that's my goal. Some people's goals are different. That's fine. But
I think that's great. I mean, if people can make a good living harvesting these plants, that's fantastic. And I know, here's Heather says.
Heather. Yes, Heather.
A means of survival for many poor mountain folks for years and years and years. People call it sang.
And
you're
singing. September 1st, singing.
So yeah, no, I support that idea as well. I think that if we,
so ginseng has so many moving parts. I mean, like the market, the sustainability, the growth, the biology. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and it's so complicated and so old. I mean, you can't really expect for a 2,000-year, literally, market for ginseng just poof, and so, and for good reason. I mean, it is absolutely the king of. I mean, it is like the king of herbs.
There's so many really good uses for.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
still use the plant.
Yes. And I mean, I take it a lot. Like, I mean, I just like eat a little bit. It definitely allows me to have a little bit more energy when chasing a 4-year-old around a mountainside, for instance. But let's see. So there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, it's not. I mean, it takes so long to reproduce itself. So at this point, the commercial value is just devastating wild populations. Now, there have been farms for hundreds of years. I mean, in North America, there have been ginseng farms, and they farm ginseng under shade cloth because it needs shade. It can't live in full sun. Get sunburn, just doesn't do well. So they put up these big shade cloths and they farm it in rows. And then sometimes they even use like big, big machinery to harvest it, And so under those circumstances, you're probably talking about 5 to 8 to 10 years max is how long they grow ginseng for before harvesting it. And then you have, like other means of conservation through cultivation, which is like a term that has been around for a little bit in the ginseng world, which is people, either forest farming, or forest grown ginseng, which is when you're in the forest and you kind of clear an area under the canopy and then you plant it there. That's one way to do it. All the way up until like something called wild simulated, which is basically when you grow it as close as possible to like its native, to the way it would grow in the wild, except you plant it and you leave it alone and you kind of protect it, keep it out, but you don't cultivate the soil, you don't do additives, you don't, like do anything other than just like plant it and basically protect it. It can get more complicated than that. Ben Kitchen, for instance, is, like really good at, all of that kind of stuff too. So I would suggest,
and that's why I would want to, definitely go out to his place and have us show us what he's doing. I think that would be really awesome.
That would be great. So, and he's at a very special place out there too, near Cherokee. Or the Cherokee tribal lands. And so, and then you have shade grown, you have like forest grown, and then you have wild simulated, and then you have wild ginseng. And unfortunately, those are the populations that, have, had so much impact recently in recent years, like the past 10 years, And then even more so than that, since media, like TV shows like Appalachian Outlaws and Smoky Mountain Honey, like that kind of stuff, has really, put ginseng in, a bad kind of spotlight.
Yeah.
So, anywho, you have the wild populations, and they are crucial because one of the big differences between grown and farmed ginseng and wild ginseng is where the planting stock comes from. And so a lot of these, farming operations, they are trying to find commercially available seed, which is obviously only coming from places with lots of plants. And so you have like all of these, like these farms, which is great because that's actually hopefully reducing the pressure on the wild plants. And, so there's so many more people that know so much more than I do about growing ginseng. But, for me, my favorite thing is stewarding wild ginseng, finding, monitoring, planting berries, occasionally harvesting, like only like a very small portion of the most mature plants. And, it's not, I mean, yeah, its value far exceeds its price per pound in my book. So, I mean, I kind of used to be an ethical dealer, which of course is like code word for me only selling the roots that I dug ethically, kind of abiding by my own ethical harvesting, protocols. But now there's some exciting movement in the ginseng world in that I hope that we're going to be able to start defining stewardship. We're going to be able to start defining ethical harvest, which goes hand in hand in stewardship. But stewardship is key.
Yeah, I think there's a label. Like I think Mountain Rose is using a symbol.
Forest grown verification, or I'm sorry, forest grown verified.
I think that is that part of what you're sort of talking about? Okay.
Yes. And so now that is conscious consumerism. And that is people being able to support, everybody. So Mountain Rose, the people that they source their herbs, their ginseng from, that's like down the supply chain kind of like support of conscious consumerism. And that's great because, they are sourcing their ginseng. And because of that, I guess they're able to provide, ginseng, in their catalog of, of botanicals because they know it's done the right way, it's certified to be forest grown. And, that this, that the farmer is, ethically and sustainably harvesting their ginseng, growing it, I guess. And so, yeah, that is a label. And that's absolutely one really important part of, of this, of trying to, help ginseng, recover.
And I think like just the education is really important. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching this that, didn't know all this stuff about ginseng because you just don't, I mean, there's probably a lot that do, but
it's absolutely. And, it has taken me years of study. Maybe I'm thicker than some people, but it's taken me years of study to really understand all of the complex situation and components of ginseng. And, honestly, I don't even consider myself an expert. It's like, Janine Davis and, David Taylor and Susan Leopold and James McGraw. I mean, those are true experts that, have such an amazing perspective. But, to me, as someone who doesn't really have, how do I put this? The benefit of higher education and a biology or botany degree, or agriculture. I mean, there's so much to this. I feel like I'm just kind of an advocate.
Yeah.
And I just want to help people become, first of all, just aware that there's so much to this.
Yes.
It's like that's the first step, awareness. And then, maybe awareness will lead to interest or curiosity, and then that'll lead to like education. It's like, hey, maybe I need to educate myself about this. This is kind of cool, and I want, personally, my little vision would be for everybody who has an interest, to have, like, access to this information in a way that is accessible to everybody. Accessible.
So Heather has one question, and then this really leads us right into talking about your 100 days of ginseng. So she says, are there herbalists that do look for ethically sourced roots in the products? Like, I don't think I quite. Can you clarify?
Okay. Yeah,
Can you
I think I follow.
saying?
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Ginseng has not been a part of Western herbalism, or herbalism is a lot of the Western herbalists kind of do things. It's mostly been Chinese and Asian kind of herbalism. And so because of that, most of the ginseng that has been, harvested in this country has almost always just been exported to Asia, Hong Kong, typically. And so there hasn't been a lot of room for ginseng, because of that. It's like all gets exported. And unfortunately, there is the fact that, ginseng, with its high commercial value, a lot of times is out of the price range of herbalists making products. So that's kind of a factor. And so to answer your question, yes, but only recently. Yes, there are herbalists that look for ethically sourced ginseng specific roots for their products. And it's really important to try to highlight and, to make a big deal about those herbalists that do, because that's going to be really important moving forward.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, with the advent of, kind of like alternative health, practices in America, and, and things like, acupuncture and herbalism, and, the things that ginseng is truly, like, historically a part of, I'm hoping that there will be a market for American ginseng domestically. And that's going to be a major part of, maybe what can help ginseng. I mean, it's definitely a commodity at this point. So, a lot of herbalists, maybe don't have like a backyard that can grow ginseng. Right. And so, yeah, that's going to be a major part of it. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So,
and actually, I'm sorry, just 2 seconds, yeah. Jennifer. Heather, some plants have similar properties to ginseng, and it's certainly always advisable to examine and explore alternatives before ginseng, before using, something as expensive and as rare as ginseng. So yes, that's definitely a factor too. But, ginseng, I don't know, ginseng is kind of special in its medicinal actions and values that, I mean, I think if it were if it were ethically harvested and sustainably sourced, there's totally a place for ginseng and kind of regular tonic herbalism, which is, the kind of thing that you would take on a regular basis in order to like help your body adapt. It's an adaptogen.
I mean, it grows here. It's part of this country. We should use it. We should use it. It's here. We should benefit. We should, it should be a part of Western herbalism. I think
and certainly Native American herbalism. I'm sorry.
Right.
I keep saying that too fast. Native American herbalism, and of course First Nations herbalism, Native American herbalism, which it's amazing to learn about that wisdom.
I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I keep feeling like I say Native American herbalism. I mean the herbalism of America, like native plants, native herbalism, I guess is what I'm trying to say. As well as, Native American herbalism.
So it has been used, but just not necessarily by like us white people to be uneloquent about it.
It was certainly used by the First Nations before the arrival. Yeah, before the arrival. It's like, ginseng was discovered, in Canada by a Jesuit priest, who knew of herbalism and knew of, plants of the Orient. And so that was kind of like the formal discovery of ginseng in America. And, before the founding of, this country. But it was absolutely used and, kind of, it was definitely used for both spiritual and medicinal purposes by the First Nations. And now I think I should probably close my mouth because I don't know enough to be able to like confidently say, maybe, it's amazing though. It's like everything, amulets. So, I mean, like they use ginseng as amulets. They use ginseng for headaches. They use ginseng, to help cure illnesses and things like that. So, I mean, there was definitely, much use and adoration with them before, colonization.
Yeah.
So,
disclaimer, we don't have the correct terms, but it's sometimes it's hard to speak sometimes. Yeah, I understand, but I think we did okay. I think you did okay.
Thank you. Just trying to stay respectful.
Yes. Hopefully, we did not offend anyone. We are trying.
So with 100 days of ginseng, I kind of go in cycles. In some ways, I just kind of like live and breathe and eat ginseng. It's always on my mind. I am absolutely, as if you can't tell, head over heels, completely obsessed with this plant.
I can't tell. No,
I can't, not at all. And so, sometimes it can be very frustrating for me on the internet because, there's growing ginseng communities, and I'm like, media, thanks to their shows, that, kind of single-handedly have a horrible impact on ginseng in some ways, most ways. I sometimes get really frustrated and I'm like, what can I do? What can one person do? And so I was like, how about this? How about I just do a countdown? So 100 days until the start of ginseng season in most states, 19 states with the ginseng program, all of them East Coast or Eastern Seaboard. And just come up with 100 facts, which is absolutely easy because I can come up with 1,000 about ginseng, or facts, or like cool historical things, or here's how it grows, or just something to try to plant a seed of curiosity in people to just kind of learn more about it, because there is so much to it. And so every day for 100 days, sometimes very barely, I was writing them the day of. I was calling it 100 days of typos. But
well, it is challenging to do something every day, especially for 100 days. So the link is in the description if you want to go to the 100 Days of Ginseng website. And all 100 days is done for this year, but I think there's going to be a second, at least.
Yes,
there's going to be more.
Yes, there's going to be more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the whole entire thing with solid footnotes, references, further reading, authorities to help me, using quotes, like highlighting books, really do it right, do it better this time. I think that this past year was pretty good, and honestly, it got enough interest from other folks and other organizations that it certainly seemed important to do. And so basically it's just an awareness and education campaign. And so every day I just made a graphic, I like a picture of ginseng and, like a little fact or a little story, or a little piece of history for ginseng. But, what I really want to foster is an inclusiveness, because sometimes I feel like it's a little easy for, mountain people to either feel like left out or resentful of the science community. And sometimes I feel like the science community, has just done work that is so amazing, but also really hard to summarize,
Yeah.
in the lay terms that,
Yeah.
I feel like there should be a whole lot of bridge building there and inclusiveness. And so I tried to reach, like, do something for everybody that I can think of. It's like, whether you're interested in buying it, to take, or you're interested in growing it, or you're interested in harvesting it, or, you're interested in conserving it, a little bit of something for everybody. And so that's what I tried to accomplish with 100 Days of Ginseng. And as a cool little side note, I designed these shirts.
Yes. Can you still get the shirts?
They're on a limited print.
Okay.
But if anyone is interested in them, you can reach out to me and I can kind of arrange that. So it's just 100 Days of Ginseng, plant every seed.
I thought that it was really a cool project, and I thought they were very accessible. The little tiny, was little bite size of information,
exactly.
And at the end of it, you didn't even realize you were learning so much about,
Thank you.
So, and I think there's other links and resources on that page already.
Yeah, I hope, yes, there is. And I hope to be broadly expanding it over this winter. The countdown will start on May 23rd. And that is approximately 100 days before September 1st. It's the start of ginseng seasons in most states. And, the reason why I did it for that is because a lot of people just really look forward to ginseng season. And, a lot of heritage singers, like a good friend of mine, he's been digging ginseng for 50 years.
Wow.
His grandfather taught his uncle who taught him, like, in this area. So, I mean, what's amazing is that, the way they've done it has always been sustainable, has always been ethical. And so a lot of the plants that he digs are ones that he planted, or the ones that his grandfather planted, or the ones that his uncle planted. And so I've just really, that is such a strong and beautiful tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to ginseng, thanks to that experience. So many children and so many people and so many generations have had, a reason to get out and explore and be a part of nature and learn about things. And, like hunting, ginseng digging, things that, bring us closer to the land and to nature. So, it is definitely an irrefutable connection. And so I love to learn about those old stories and those people who, do it that way. And there's many of them, but unfortunately, I guess for many reasons, there's not a lot of continuation at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe not in my generation, and, a lot of people more and more are kind of turning to ginseng to plant on their property as like a retirement kind of investment. Which is great, and I fully encourage that. And there needs to be some management expectations, because it doesn't grow like tomatoes. It takes at least 10 years, probably more like 20 or 30, to get like a profitable harvest. And so, you kind of have to research and understand why ginseng is so unique. And and the other side of that is trying to protect as much as we can these wild populations, which have been dwindling. It's like someone was explaining to me, like, the high grading of forests, which is when you go in and you pick out the very best, trees to log out, and you leave the rest. And so, it's damaging. It's not a good practice. It's unsustainable, and it's fairly devastating, in areas where, like, top keystone species and things like that are not able to thrive. And, like, forest succession is is altered, and it changes the habitat. And and then it occurred to me that ginseng has been high graded almost to death. Since Daniel Boone first loaded up 3 schooner ships to take across the Atlantic Ocean. Ginseng has been commercially harvested like so hard and so long. What we have left is unfortunately a fairly reduced genetic pool. And so, I mean, if we can figure out any strategy to like try to help these wild ginseng populations, to try to preserve them, or only ethically harvest to reduce your impact, and steward these populations, that's going to be the key. And so 100 Days of Ginseng also does a lot about stewardship, and that's still, while it's not a new principle, is kind of like new when it comes to like defining it in a way that everybody can practice. And so that's something I'm really into, is just kind of like promoting and advocating for stewardship. And then what goes hand in hand in stewardship is a way of ethically harvesting to reduce your impact. So it's like, yeah, you're going to harvest, and yeah, some plants will go missing, but here are some things that you can do to protect the rest of the plants. Make sure that you keep a healthy balance of all generations, and ginseng generations is also a very fun topic, because you can kind of watch them grow up. You have like these little babies, and then you have like the teenagers, and then you have the mature ones, and then you have like granddaddies or grandmothers. So yeah, it's really interesting. And as again, this book talks about stewardship.
Cool.
And also I'm really excited and absolutely honored to be working with James McGraw on a website dedicated to his work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Obviously I'm not the expert. He is. Jen Chandler, they are the experts. I'm just helping them try to, like design and present this in a way that is accessible for everyone to learn a little bit about. And his book's fantastic.
Cool. All right. Well, so everyone, Heather put up the link in the chat if you want to check out 100 Days of Ginseng. And there's also, we don't have time to talk about. You have a Batcave Botanicals. Check out that website. But that you also
Batcave Botanicals is just, I don't know, it's kind of like a startup nursery to provide like at-risk botanicals. I haven't been doing a lot with it recently because motherhood has kind of kicked my butt. And so I look forward to working on that in the next few years. But really all it is right now is like a website and a hope for the future.
And but yeah, that's still good. That's still great. I found what was up there really great. So oh, Heather, we don't have time for that.
Okay. Two words: ginseng and nettles.
Okay. Heather asked what was your favorite herb, but I also want to ask about, because you have more books on that pile, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All
Can
right.
you hang tight for just 1 second?
Yeah.
So you asked me what some of my favorite books are, I guess, was maybe one of the questions that we were hoping to have time for before I ran away with it.
Oh, no. The question list is merely a roadmap. So,
okay. Okay, so Alma Hutchins. This book really has been amazing. I think I paid like $1 for this at a yard sale, and I picked it up because of the picture on the front. Look, it's like, I think Mandrake or Mandragora, anyway. And so I picked this up, and it has been absolutely profound. And not only because she does, First Nations traditions, but she talks about like kind of world uses of plants, and their counterparts, North American plants and their counterparts around the world. So that's a great one for, kind of like native herbalism, I suppose. And now when it comes to ginseng, this is one of my favorite books, Tales of Ginseng, which is almost entirely folk tales from around the world.
Oh, that's cool.
I am a fairy tale person. I love folk tales. I love mythology. I love legends and things like that. And so this is absolutely an amazing book. I highly suggest it. Andrew Kimmins. And let's see. Of course, pardon my vintage copy, but this is Growing and Marketing Gin Seal, Golden Seal, and Other Woodland Medicinals by Janine Davis. And I highly suggest all of her work. She runs the extension out of Mills River.
Mills River. It's
Mills River in Asheville.
In Asheville, and they were hiring once, then I missed it. I had to drive a stick.
She does so much work with not only ginseng, but like alternative crops and organics. And so, I mean, I highly suggest her as a resource and her wonderful book. This is the first edition. She has a new second edition. This is actually my author signed copy.
Ooh.
Like one of the first printings. But I highly suggest her as a resource for anyone interested in growing ginseng.
It's looking for here's going to be the link to the new one.
Thank you.
Second edition. But there we go.
And so, sorry, I'm making so much work for you.
We love the books.
Okay. This book I highly recommend for anyone who wants to understand the history and the big picture of ginseng. This is Ginseng, the Divine Root by David A. Taylor. And I had the pleasure of kind of reaching out to him when I did my 100 Days of Ginseng and kind of getting to know him a little bit. And, I would love to pick his brain someday on ginseng history. But this is a fantastic book. And, it really immerses you in the history of ginseng, which thousands and thousands of years. I mean, let me put it this way. It's like nations in Asia, in China, rose and fell because of ginseng and the control of it and its territory and the people harvesting it. I mean, anyway, so fantastic book. And then United Plant Savers is also an incredible resource when it comes to ginseng. And this is one of their publications, The Future of Ginseng and Forest Botanicals. This is actually a symposium proceeding from a symposium that took place in West Virginia a few years ago. And so this is basically like a selection of like monographs. Let's see. Sustainable Herbs Project. Can wild ginseng regenerate new plants from a replanted root? That's really big. Black cohosh, ginsenicide profiles in American ginseng. Supply and regulation of American ginseng. There's so much to this, and so it's not so much, like a book as it is like it's a collection of, really important, recent papers when it comes to ginseng and other forest botanicals.
And it's like $10 on Amazon.
Yes. You can also
or their website.
You can also get it.
You don't want to always support Amazon, which is, but I just pop those links up because it's easiest. But
they have a free PDF download on United Plant Savers. Okay. So I mean, this isn't I mean, yeah, this is unprohibitively available. You can read it on, you can read it online or order the book for $10.
So United Plant Savers, I think I might have spelled that wrong. It's an amazing resource. So I would recommend if anyone's interested in any of these forest botanicals, to check them out. They have a golden
seal sanctuary in
Ohio, which is gorgeous. I got a chance to go and
you did.
It was amazing. The goldenrod was blooming. Ohio is mostly goldenrod, apparently. Amazing.
Golden waves of rod.
They have like hiking trails, but I took a 2-day forest. It was for people who are interested in like growing. So my friend has like 5 acres of land, so she had some interest in sort of doing some conservation. She has some bloodroot and some. I don't know if she has any ginseng, but she's got some other of those type of plants on her land, and so we got to go, and that's where I first learned about all this stuff. But it's amazing. So if you get a chance, go. Or go to the website.
This is my last one, I promise.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then one other link. So This is the Forest Farmers Handbook. Again, this is by United Plant Savers and Rural Action, which is an organization up there near Ohio. I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly where they're based out of, but Rural Action is a wonderful organization, and they did this Forest Farmers Handbook, and so it's like a collaboration. So this is black cohosh, bloodroot, ramps, American ginseng, and golden seal. So these are some of the most profitable things that can be grown in a forest. So if you're a landowner, or if you're a person who really just wants to grow and like make an arrangement with a forest owner, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that is likely already growing and could be sustainably harvested and managed, or could be planted. And so let's see. Another little thing is that I'm working with the Appalachian Beginning Forest Farmers Coalition.
Yes, that's another one.
I built a website for them, their newest website, which I'm fairly proud of. And what the Appalachian Beginning Forest Farming Coalition is just a way to introduce anybody who is interested in nature, forests, forest land, owners. I mean, like companies who make products from things that you can get from forests. I mean, people who harvest. I mean, just like the whole coalition is pretty amazing. And, we like to help people get started and to connect people and network and provide free information on things like this. So, I mean, it really should be publicly and freely available. And so that's what we do. And so the website for that is AppalachianForestFarmers.org.
I got it up. We'll get the link.
Ginseng. Yes, thank you. And so ginseng is obviously one of the more famous, things people that. So yes.
Yes. All right. So we are out of time. But I'd like to thank Sara so much and for joining us and talking about ginseng and giving us all these fantastic resources and also everything else that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for letting me ramble on about plants. I tell you what, if you want to have a part 2 and a part 3, I can fill up your time.
Hey, you know what? We are almost out of the list of come spring. I'm probably going to be hitting people up to come back on. Excellent. And have more discussion. So go a little deeper. There's so and as soon as I can get out there.
Thank you, Heather.
Aw, Heather says very inspiring interview. Yes. Thank you, Heather. Heather is awesome as well. So maybe one day we'll get Heather on to talk about her garden. I don't know. Or her
I'd like to hear about your garden, Heather.
Latest kitchen. Heather has a YouTube channel. So
oh yeah.
Yes, so there's some videos about her garden up there if you want to check it out. She also posted a link to Joe Hollis's YouTube channel. So
yes, thank
Joe
you.
Hollis has a YouTube channel as well. So thank you. That got away from me sometimes. I'm triple tasking. So all right. So we are we're 3 interviews this month. So the 29th we'll be back at 12 with Stephanie Hahn. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. So that's there's so many awesome people that I'm getting to chat with. So all right, guys. Well, I hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions, just you can leave in the comments. This will be up in about 24 hours on YouTube, and it's on Facebook right now. There's a Stories for Theirs Facebook group if you're interested in joining, or if you wanted to come on and chat about herbs. You don't have to be an herbalist. You can just be a plant enthusiast or whatever. If you just want to chat about herbs, that's in your experiences really is what. Anyway, all right. Yes, been talking for a while, so brain has stopped functioning. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time. Okay. Bye.